James Shields is a daring person. He took a group of kids on a trip of a lifetime and changed at least one's perspective on his entire life. My life was forever altered when we climbed Mount St. Helens. I used to be a little kid who didn't do much but play Xbox all day and go over friends' houses and play Xbox there. I was offered a trip of a lifetime and I knew that I had to go. Mr. Shields and I met last year in 11th grade. I was staying in the TV room with Mr. Thomas, and this bald-headed man walks in, and instantly Mr. Thomas and him start ripping on me. I had no one else to talk trash to, so I had to do it myself. After we got finishing making fun of each other, he made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. He told me he was going on a trip with other kids from our school, and that we was the leader of the adventure club. He told me about a trip where he would be going to Washington and British Columbia, Canada, and he told me that he wanted me there with him. He told me the trip would consist of rock climbing and summiting Mount St. Helens. On July 5th, we left Haberhorsham Senior High School to go to Lehigh Valley Airport. We all drove in different cars. The entire group said goodbye to their family because that would be the last we would see them for the next 10 days. After a 4-hour flight to Chicago, we got on another plane for 3 hours until we reached Seattle. Mr. Shields told us that it would be a long drive to Squamish, Canada, but it was going to be worth it. The first day was very awkward because I didn't know anybody. Mr. Shields made us play a game to make us get to know each other. After 2 days, we started to all become good friends. I've never felt as comfortable trying to get to know more people as with Mr. Shields. He helped us through every problem we faced for the next 10 days. We spent the first 4 days of our 10-day trip in British Columbia. When we woke up after a long night of driving, Mr. Shields told us that we were going to hike the Chief, a 2,297-foot mountain. I was so scared and thought to myself, what am I even doing here? I felt so out of place because I had never done anything like that before. I never hiked a mountain, let alone a 2,000-foot mountain. Mr. Shields was there with me every step of the way. He made sure that we were as safe as possible. He guided us through the entire way with no injuries. We successfully got to the top of the second of 3 peaks. The second day of the trip, Mr. Shields taught us knots for ropes and showed us his expertise in the climbing field. An hour later, and we were off and climbing a section of rock that wasn't too high, but there was no joking around with this sport. I never felt so secure climbing up the side of an 80-foot rock. Mr. Shields told me everything that he was going to do to make sure that none of us got hurt. He had so many contraptions that I had no idea where I would even begin. I realize now that everything was so simple but yet complex at the same time. On the 3rd day, we climbed Mount Garibaldi. That was the first time that I ever hiked in snow, so that was a real eye-opener for what was expected of me on Mount St. Helens. Mr. Shields was very brave. He put his life on the line by stepping on the dangerous areas of the mountains so that we could walk across over things safely. After leaving British Columbia, we traveled all the way to Oregon to go to the beach for the day. That was one of the longest car rides I've ever experienced, and it was hilarious. Mr. Shields was so entertaining, and Kyle Grow and I kept it rolling. We had so much fun and were laughing at the entire time. Mr. Shields made up a nickname for me and started calling me Svensson instead of Spencer, and now they all associate me as a little Dutch boy named Svensson. We left Oregon and stopped at base camp of Mount St. Helens. Mr. Shields told us that we were about 5,000 feet up and that we had to climb about another 3,000. Even though the drive back was very long, Mr. Shields still managed to keep it entertaining. He always knew what would make us laugh, which made the drive go by very fast. We got to Washington about 4 hours later. We set up base camp and got to bed early because we knew we had a big day ahead of us. We went to bed around 9 o'clock because we had to wake up at 4:30 in the morning the next day. We woke up and ate a very quick breakfast. The hike consisted of 9 hours of hiking through the snow and climbing over the lava rocks that the explosion left. I had a difficult time getting up the mountain at the end because of all the wind and debris. I didn't make it up all the way because it was too intense. Another girl and I stayed back while the rest of the group made the last 30-minute hike through the toughest terrain. Mr. Shields knew my limit, and he knew not to push me too far. We both decided that it was my time to stop, and that he was proud of me making it this far. Looking back on the trip now, I think I could have gone a little bit further. Mr. Shields really opened my eyes to a whole new world being on top of that mountain. It didn't just give me the feeling of, oh, hey, look, there are clouds, and isn't that beautiful? It was much more than that. I felt free, and I feel like I knew what life was all about up there. It's about being free and pursuing your dreams. It's about being able to do something as best to your ability and feel good about it. Mr. Shields changed my life forever.